Welcome to another episode of The Life Tash. I'm Tash, and this is not your average empowerment journey. Today, I'm sharing something deeply personal, the real story behind why I walked away from a $250,000 corporate salary to become a professional dominatrix. And before you think this is just another follow your passion fairy tale, let me tell you, it's much more complex, much more transformational, and a little bit messy than you probably heard before. So grab a coffee, grab a drink, get comfortable, and let me tell you how I went from MBA to Mistress and why it was actually the best business decision and life decision I ever made. So let me take you back. It's 2015 and on paper, I'm living the dream. MBA, check. Six-figure salary that kept climbing, check. Respect from my colleagues, check. Big multi-million-dollar projects, check. I'd bought my first house. I was pregnant with my daughter. All the markers of success that society tells us that we should achieve and that we should want. But here's what they don't tell you. Even though they're golden handcuffs, they're still fucking handcuffs. And I was dying inside. Every morning I'd wake up with this crushing weight in my chest, knowing that I had to put on this face, put on this performance of being grateful for a life that I felt like it was someone else's. I was successful for sure, but I wasn't alive. And don't get me wrong, the irony was not lost on me that I spend my days making decisions about power dynamics in boardrooms while feeling completely powerless in my own life. I was climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall, but I really couldn't see that yet, or at least I couldn't see a way out. You know what the worst part was? I was really good at it. I could strategize, negotiate, lead teams. I would hit KPIs. I would deliver amazing projects. I would get praised. Shouldn't have that been amazing? I had all these skills that corporate had taught me, and I was using them to build someone else's empire while my soul withered away. And look, everyone around me thought I had it made. Like, you're so lucky. Look how well you're doing. You've got such a successful career. And I thought, yeah, lucky, right? But here is where it gets interesting. Even in that corporate prison, I was drawn to power dynamics. I was fascinated by who had real authority versus who just had a title. I loved understanding how influence worked, how trust was built, how it was lost, how you could create containers where people would be performing at their best, or creating containers where people were performing at their absolute worst and miserable. So there I was, me as well, successful and miserable. And life threw me a curveball that just completely changed everything. One of my closest friends made me an offer that would transform my entire existence. She asked me if I wanted to double dom her submissive partner with her. My immediate reaction was, oh my God, I would be really crap at that. Typical, right? Like when something truly calls to your soul, the first thing your mind does is it tells you that you're not qualified for this, to run away, to be scared, to, shut down. But maybe my friend had seen something inside me that I hadn't quite recognized just yet. I said yes, partly because it unnerved me, and not much unnerves me. I've always been drawn to experiences that push my edges, and this was definitely outside my comfort zone. I still remember that first night like it was yesterday. We got ready together. She wore all red and I wore all black. We walked into their playrooms to the song that was playing, which was "These Boots Are Made for Walking," and something shifted in me that I can't fully explain. It was like this persona came over me, confident, commanding, completely present in my mind and in my body like I had never been before. And that was the night Mistress Tash Mia was born, though I didn't know that quite yet. The experience was unlike anything I've had before. For the first time, I really felt alive, completely authentic. I wasn't performing or pretending. I wasn't embodying something that felt more real than anything I'd ever experienced in corporate. And here's what really actually blew my mind. All those skills I've developed in my corporate life, they actually translated perfectly. Negotiation became scene negotiation. Leadership became dominance. Creating psychological safety became care for my submissives. Reading people and situations became energy attunement. These things were essential to kink skills. I realized that I'd been practicing power exchange dynamics in boardrooms for years. I just hadn't been doing it consciously, and definitely not within the same level of awareness and consent. So I guess that night opened something that I couldn't close. I started researching, learning, exploring this world, and it was completely hidden from my corporate reality. But the more I learned, the more I realized that this wasn't just about sex or kink. This was about authentic power, conscious leadership, and living truthfully. But I wasn't exactly ready to leave corporate yet. I thought maybe I could have both lives, successful executive by day, exploring my authentic self in my free time, going away for weekends with my friend and her submissive partner, doing these amazing DS dynamic exchanges, seeing pro doms, learning different activities. But, spoiler alert, that's not sustainable. Because the disconnect that was clearly becoming more and more obvious was becoming more and more painful to live with. I'd go from these experiences of complete authenticity and aliveness to sitting in board meetings talking about quarterly targets, and the contrast was absolutely stark. It was like I'd tasted color after living in black and white, and just everything else felt really flat. I was living a bit of a double life for a time, and it was getting exhausting and draining. I often say that corporate actually felt way more like exploitation than being a professional dominatrix ever has. In corporate, we sell our time, we sell our energy, and we often sell our values for money. And to me, that price that I was paying was just getting way too high. The breaking point came about a year later. I was in a particularly soul-crushing meeting about cost optimization. The kind where they're discussing human beings like line items on a spreadsheet. And I had this moment of absolute clarity. I thought, I cannot spend one more day of my life pretending this matters to me when I know what actually living feels like. And that night I went home. I did something that the old me would have been terrified of doing, and I asked my manager to put me up for redundancy. Now, I'm not telling you to go and quit your job tomorrow. But what I'm saying is that once you've experienced authentic power, authentic living, it becomes impossible to settle for performance of success. The practical side of me, the MBA side, the corporate side, wanted a plan. Luckily, I had, financial security. I had been researching already what it takes to be a professional dominatrix. I had been training, I had been learning. But honestly, I was mostly jumping without a net, trusting that my skills would translate and that living authentically would open doors I couldn't even see yet. Most people in my life probably thought I'd lost my mind, to be honest. Like, you're throwing away a decade and hundreds of thousands of dollars in study and education away for what exactly? Do you know how many people would kill to be in your position? And you know what? They weren't wrong about the sacrifice. I was walking away from long-term financial security, from a clear career path, from the approval of everyone who watched me climb that corporate ladder, and from society in general. But what people couldn't understand is that I actually wasn't throwing away anything. I was finally picking up what was actually mine. I got myself a studio space and started learning my craft properly. I would study the different aspects to BDSM and kink, such as impact play, rote work, psychological dynamics. I read everything I could get my hands on about conscious kink, consent, aftercare. I approached it like the business professional that I was: research, planning, and a commitment to excellence. And something beautiful started happening. People began coming to me, not just for sessions, but for training. They wanted to learn not just the technique, but how to integrate these practices into personal growth and authentic living and power. That's when I realized my true calling wasn't just being a professional dominatrix, but it was educating people about conscious kink as a pathway to authentic power. Within 2 years, I'd built something that wasn't just financially sustainable, but it was thriving. But, more importantly, I was thriving, and I'd built a life that actually felt like it was mine. I was working with people who were hungry for authenticity. I was teaching skills that actually mattered. I was creating experiences that transformed lives. The work felt meaningful in a way that corporate never had. And here's the real kicker. All those business skills I developed, they became my secret weapon. I brought strategic thinking, professional communication, and a business mindset that helped me grow and scale quickly. So my MBA that everyone thought I was throwing out the window didn't become irrelevant. It became the foundation for building something actually more important. So here's what I want you to understand. This story really isn't about leaving corporate to become a dominatrix. It's about what happens when you stop living someone else's definition of success and start creating your own. The transformation wasn't just professional, it was complete. I became more confident, more present, more connected to my own power. I learned to set boundaries, to ask for what I wanted, and to trust in my intuition. I developed a relationship with my body and with my desires that I had never had before. Most importantly, I learned that authenticity isn't a luxury. It's a necessity for a life worth living. But let's be real about what this journey actually looked like, because I know Instagram culture loves to romanticize these transformation stories. There were months where I questioned everything. There still is, even now as I grow my business and brand and transform again. There are days where I miss the security of a regular paycheck, and there are moments where I wonder if I've made a massive mistake. Building an authentic life isn't just about having the courage to leave what doesn't serve you. It's about having the persistence to create what does, even when it's scary as hell and hard as fuck. I had to learn new skills. I had to build new relationships. I had to navigate an industry that was completely foreign to everything I had known previously. I had to develop comfort with uncertainty, with being seen, with owning my desires without apology. But here's what made it all worth it. For the first time in my adult life, I loved who I was becoming. Not who I thought I should be, not who others expected me to be, but who I actually was when all the performance fell away. And today, I run a business with multiple revenue streams, doing work that lights me up every single day. I educate people about conscious kink, about how to dominate every aspect of their life. I coach individuals through their own authenticity journeys. I've created products that help people bridge their public and personal selves. Most importantly, I wake up excited about my work. I feel I have a passion and purpose. I'm surrounded by people who celebrate authenticity rather than conformity. I travel when I want, I work with clients who inspire me, and I build something that's truly mine. But the real victory isn't the money or the freedom. It's that I'm finally living as myself. And here's the thing. The skills that made me successful in corporate, they didn't disappear. They became the foundation for building something even better. Leadership, negotiation, strategic thinking, team building, all of it translated into conscious kink education and authentic empowerment. I didn't throw away my past. I integrated it with something aligned with my truth. So why am I telling this story today? Because I know that there are people listening who feel that same crushing weight that I felt. You might be successful on paper, but dying inside. You might be incredibly good at what you do, but you know it's not what you're meant to do. And here's what I want you to know. Your desires aren't random. Your dissatisfaction isn't ungrateful. That thing that calls to you that makes you feel most alive, that's not a distraction from your real life. That is your real life trying to emerge. You don't have to become a professional dominatrix, but you do have to stop settling for a life that feels like someone else's. The path won't be linear. It probably won't be easy, but I promise you this. Living authentically is the only way to access your real power in this life. And your real power is what the world needs. Your authentic desires aren't shameful, they're sacred. Your authentic self isn't too much, it's exactly enough. Your authentic path isn't selfish, it's necessary. Stop waiting for permission to live your truth. Stop believing that security is more important than authenticity. Stop thinking that the risk of failure is greater than the cost of never trying. You have one life, one chance to see what happens when you bet on yourself completely. So what are you waiting for? So that's my story. Messy, imperfect, and completely worth it. If this resonated with you, I would love to hear from you about your story, your journey towards authenticity. So send me a message on Instagram or drop it below, share your story. Let me know what's calling to you. And remember that this isn't your average empowerment journey. But then again, you're not average either. So until next time, keep claiming your power. And as always, stay kinky.